Right guys, welcome down to Finch Friday, your weekly golf Q&A. And as always, had so many questions in over social media, so I'm going to pick 5 out which I've not answered before or which are relevant this week, and then crack on from there. So first question from JoelGood14 on Instagram. Have you heard about the phones being thrown in the bin if they go off as the player hits? Now this is something that Rory McIlroy did a bit of a video on and which has been circulated through social media about the Irish Open this week at Portstewart, which by the way looks like an incredible golf course. And the players certainly seemed to like it on the first day of action today as they went a long way under par, including Daniel Im, who shot 8 under, done videos with Dan in the past, so make sure you check them out on my YouTube channel. Quick shameless plug. And the reason that that video has been circulated and the reason that it is important for many people to watch is simply because of what the European Tour and the Irish Open organisers have done this week. So what the organisers, European Tour and the Irish Open have done is offer a prize of 500 quid or 500 euros to the winner of a photographic competition. A photographic competition. And the rules are pretty simple. The best photo of the week, which is taken by a spectator, will be up for £500/euros of merchandise. Now for people who haven't attended a European Tour event before or even a PGA Tour event before, this is quite unusual because during tournament days people are not allowed to use their phones to take photos of the players. It's okay during practice days but not during tournament play. So just to read a little bit more about the story, which is on the European Tour website, as part of a pilot scheme being trialled by European Tour at Portstewart, mobile phone photography is now permitted in all areas of the course every day from Tuesday to Sunday. Video capture, however, will still be restricted to non-competition areas. What's more, to mark this change in policy, organisers of this year's event are actively encouraging spectators to take out their phones at Portstewart and get snap happy as part of a competition to win £500 of Dubai duty-free Irish Open and European Tour merchandise. And they've also put out this just a little leaflet basically, which is just giving a bit more information about what you can and cannot do with your phones on the day. Now different people have reacted differently. Shane Lowry, who's playing this week in front of Irish crowds, has made his feelings pretty well known, talking about it just being absolute carnage. In many respects, I think the European Tour have done probably quite a wise thing here. If you can't see that mobile phone usage is not going to increase going into the future, then you're certainly probably not looking at the same planet. And if you go to European Tour event now, which I have done quite a few times in the last few years, people are using their phones all the time to take pictures. And for stewards, it's just a nightmare to try and stop them. Now there are obvious problems to this. If they're using their mobile phones and they're not on silent, if one of them goes off, which would happen anyway, please bear in mind that these people who are going to be using their phones to take photos, they wouldn't be without their mobile phone anyway. So as long as it's on silent, there's not really going to be that much of a difference. With mobile phone cameras now, there's no shutter noise, it's a silent action. Oh, I like that, it's a silent action. So I think the European Tour are releasing this trial policy basically saying we could hardly control this at the moment, why not try and turn this into a positive thing, get lots of photos of the event going all throughout the different social media platforms and gives it a big boost. What I do hope for though is during the event someone's mobile phone will go off like it does in every event. I just hope that they don't get so angry at that one person that it again ruins it for everyone else. And I'm not entirely sure how they're going to police the no video policy, holding up the phone. I don't really get how they're going to do that. But hey ho, we'll see how it goes. Also been introduced on European Tour this week, which I think is really good, is fining players for not shouting four. Now you see this all the time on the European Tour and the USPGA Tour when players hit their shots towards the crowds, obviously not intentionally, but when it's reaching they don't shout four. Some offer just a lazy handout and point in the general direction of where it's travelling, but some players just don't do anything, which is mad if you think about it. Hitting a ball, a hard round object, towards a person and then not shouting for. If a golf ball smacks you on the head, it is going to hurt. And surely I don't need to be the person to explain that if a golf ball hits someone on the head, that can be potentially extremely dangerous. And lo and behold, what do we find today? I certainly heard more four shouts watching the coverage today than I have in pretty much any other tour event that I've ever watched. And it's about time. Again, it's common sense. So the European Tour do seem to be thinking a little bit outside the box, and bringing things into play which are obvious. But as far as this phone policy, what do you guys think? Please comment below, and what do you think about foreshouting? It's something which seems so obvious to me and is also seems quite frustrating in many respects, but please comment below, love to know what you think. This question from Sam Winter 94. I used to have a slice but then got rid of it after I had some lessons. However, I've now developed a slice again. I've been playing often and don't feel I've changed anything. What's the best way to work on consistency to ensure the positive changes I make don't reoccur? Now this is a question, Sam, that you've pretty much just answered yourself in the question. If you went for lessons, got rid of your slice, but then the slice has come back, go back for lessons. What a lot of people seem to think is when they go for a golf lesson that the changes that they make within that golf lesson will be absolutely permanent and will not go away. But often this isn't the case. I tend to see this with lessons who come in, we have a great lesson, we manage to get their swing moving in the right direction, and by the next time that they come back, whenever that may be, for some people it's every few weeks, for some people it could be 6 months depending on the distance that they travel for lessons. And often it is the case that a lot of the changes they have managed to implement, but some things will have slipped. Golf is a hard game and there's a lot that goes on within a swing. And a slice movement is also a very common movement that you may have. So even though you may not feel like you've changed anything, even though you may feel that the things that you did within your lesson are still within your swing, it could have slipped. And that's why going to see a professional, that's why getting a lesson is so important. So the professional can then turn around and say, actually, you started doing this or you've gone back to doing this, and then you can get on the right road again. And as far as working hard to make sure that these things don't reappear within your swing, that's just down to practice. I mean, when you're changing a swing, it's down to bashing it at the driving range, it's putting it under competition pressure on the golf course, and just working hard. There's no shortcuts to this. So this question from Stevie McClevey. Comfiest shoes, looking at getting a new pair, but can't decide. So at the moment I'm just wearing FootJoy, and probably the comfiest ones that I've got so far are the freestyles. A little bit out there, a little bit more funky in some of the styles that they have there, but they are just so comfy. One of the things which has really surprised me this year about some of the shoes that I've got is I really do prefer the boa on the shoe. Have to ignore the slight dirtiness of the shoe, just pulled it out of the car. The boa construction is basically steel wires which replace the laces, and you tighten them by pressing in this nozzle at the back and then twisting it around, and then that tightens the shoe. And obviously this is compared to the conventional laces, which you probably should have seen by now. If you've not seen laces on shoes by now, then yeah, you're struggling. And guys, comment below, what's your favourite shoes? What do you think about the boa as well? I really like that. I think moving into next year, I'll still get some lace shoes, you know, just for variety. But I think I'll definitely move more into that boa fastening device. This question from Chris Totten. Hi Pete, I'm using a stiff shaft in my driver, but think I should be using a regular flex. What would using too stiff a shaft do to my game? So with a golf shaft, I'll just use this. What a golf shaft does as you hit the ball, it does a couple of things. It flexes, so it goes that way, you know, twists in this direction. It also twists around its own axis, so torque. And then it also has different kick points on the shaft as well. So the whole construction of a shaft is going through a lot of different forces as you swing. But what I would say is that you also have to think about the heaviness of the shaft, the actual length of the shaft. These are all going to have big impacting factors. And one of the reasons that fitting is so crucial now is, well, a lot of shafts, even though they say they're stiff, might really not be that stiff. For example, a stiff shaft in one manufacturer's stock shaft, for example, may be a lot more flexible than an actual stiff shaft made by a specific shaft manufacturer. So an ideal stiff shaft, so a Rogue for example, I'm using an X-Stiff Rogue, and I know that that stiffness in that shaft feels to me much stiffer, it feels much firmer than say a stock Ping shaft which I was using previously to the TaylorMade. Even though they both say X-Flex, that felt stiffer. It felt more stable, it was a little bit heavier, you know, there are things within that shaft which really felt much different. And it was different when I was testing it on the launch monitors as well, because that's the key variable. Even if something feels better or feels different, it may not actually produce any difference in the numbers. That's where getting the fitting really takes place. And because there's that much variety in the amount of shafts that you can get now, oh, you can just wander down so many avenues. It's almost impossible for me to give a recommendation. So try loads out, and remember, stiff doesn't always mean stiff, regular doesn't always mean regular. Just make sure you get on a launch monitor and test. This last question here from Chalk Top, which manufacturer is really looking out for the golfer and not cash flow? Well, all companies are looking out for their cash flow. If the cash flow isn't there, if the revenue isn't there, then they won't be there. I think there is an argument to be made that some golf manufacturers could be perceived to be taking customers for a bit of a ride, especially in the last 5 years where you've seen a lot of new releases coming out, so loads of clubs coming out, and yet when you test them on launch monitors, I mean, Rick did a fantastic video the other day with Callaway about the drivers from over the last 5 years, I think it was, and really showed that distance-wise, dispersion-wise, there wasn't a great amount of difference. But this is not something new. You can do this test with probably most of the major manufacturers and not see huge jumps in numbers. And the fact of the matter is, guys, you're not stupid. You know this. You know this, and yet you see so many golfers going out there spending a lot of money on new clubs when their old clubs, which maybe, I don't know, 2-3 years old, are probably very, very viable still. But a lot of people would rather spend their money on golf clubs, rather spend their money on new shiny things than get golf lessons, for example. Because golf lessons are scary. Golf lessons require more work. They are harder. They require a dedication and an attitude to get to a driving range, to get to a golf course, change technique and practice. And yet that is the only surefire way that you are going to improve your game. And as a caveat to this, there is nothing wrong if you want to get new clubs. It would be the height of hypocrisy for me to sit here and say, don't get new clubs, when I get new clubs all the time. I like new clubs. I like shiny things. But what I would always guard against saying is that if you are going to buy this club, it will improve your game. Golf clubs are the tool. It is still the wielder of that tool who strikes the blows. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Please comment below as always and subscribe to the channel. Comment in the box below, let me know what you think about everything that we've touched upon here, and also follow me on my other social media platforms as well. Right, I'm going to get this edited. I'm going to put down this pen, which I've been waving around all video. And on that little catch, I'll see you later. It wasn't that impressive, but